I see you found our little hiding spot in the universe. Don't get too comfortable. This is a place where you will find those with an experience that's out of this world, or possibly deep within your life. I welcome you to the Oracles with James Tyson. Lean forward and listen. We will pull you into a supernatural journey with guests from around the world, each one experiencing some of the most extraordinary phenomena this wee planet has to offer. Now, here are the Oracles with James Tyson.
Hey, thank you, Liam. One of those alien kind of guys. And thank you, viewer and listener, for tuning into today's episode of The Oracles. It's me, James. And today with us is a buddy of mine from Toronto, or just outside of Toronto, Ontario, up here in the Great White North. And his name is Ryan Stacy. Ryan's kind of interesting. He has a UFO reporting system that is really, really good. And we're going to talk about that. He used to be the go-to guy for MUFON up here in Canada, and he left them because they found, well, we get into it, why he prefers to have left. He left MUFON and struck out on his own with Tessa. And if you want to look at his website, it's TessaCan, all one word, TESACAN.org, TessaCan.org. You can also find it by just Googling Tessa UFO. Ryan has developed a system of reporting. Now, Ryan is we'll get into this too, a private investigator. He has expanded one chunk of his firm in Ontario to paranormal investigation. So not only if you saw a UFO, but a Bigfoot or a cryptid of any sort, or have a haunted challenge, you can get a hold of them, and they investigate things. They really do investigate. We're going to get into it. One of the investigations he did for a friend of mine in El Paso, Texas. She shared a photograph with me, and I said, "Oh, you got to just get Ryan to look at this stuff." And he'll be able to tell you kind of what it is. Maybe somebody else has reported something similar in the area. And we get into the thoroughness of his investigation. No, he doesn't put all this together and put it in a book and then sell it and make money. And we kind of talk about that. Not only paranormal investigators who go out and take pictures of ghosts and not share it with their clients, but even other the large UFO reporting network that people have been using, where they basically don't do any follow-up or very little follow-up with the reportee or the reporter, and gather all that information, throw it in a book, and sell it at a conference. I know, right? So I'm going to go drag young Ryan in here. He's in snowy Ontario right now. Hey, Ryan, how are you today?
I am good. How are you?
I am well here in the Pacific Northwest on the other coast. Well, actually, you're not even on the coast. You're in that other part of Canada. You got snow there, don't you?
I certainly do.
Yeah, you keep it on that side of the mountains. So
you can have it. I'm tired of it.
No. We had snow a few years ago. I wasn't too impressed then. Actually, it's snow in the mountain. If we want snow, we can just go to the mountain. But keep it off the roads.
I'll have to come visit.
Yeah, in the summer. Not right now. Unless you like the rust, it's very rainy. And plus, we're in lockdown, man. Come on. Or at least you are.
Well, I am.
Yeah, if you're a politician, no problem. But
well, I could be. Let's just pretend.
I could be a politician. I'm going to stop off in Vancouver on the way to Hawaii. Thanks for coming by.
No worries.
We haven't talked for a while. And when we did, actually, our first chat was when you had Tessa actually just up and running. And a lot has changed since then.
So much has changed since then. When we first talked, Tessa was just in its infancy of development of how we were going to start. And then we've evolved, and then now we're ready. So there's just so much has happened.
That is cool. Yeah. I put in a report to Tessa a year or so ago.
Thank you.
And I got a little red card. It's actually under a magnet on my fridge. So Tessa #1 or something.
It would have been an experiencer card or a witness card. So
Yeah, but it was number one.
were you number one?
Yeah,
Right
for that
on.
week or whatever.
No, it'll be forever for whatever
really?
it was. So what those are, because we're going to be doing another batch for the 2021. So basically, everyone who had an unidentified case within that survey, we gave them these cards. So you got either a witness card or an experiencer card, depending on your event.
Yeah.
So your event was more of a witness. So we've categorized you as a witness, but it's a membership card. So if you ever come to any TESA event and supply that, we'll be reminded at that time, because we're just thinking of future growth.
Yeah.
And then we'll give you some perks, maybe VIP settings or Patreon things. Like, we got this idea of creating this membership for the experiencers and the witnesses. So you're included in that club. So you hang on to that. And then as we move forward, that number will increase. So so for you, it's kind of cool because you got number one, but number two is also cool because what that's indicating to them is that there's somebody else. There's one other
not the
person.
only one. Yeah.
Exactly. So as we build, and say you get card number 100, sure, you're not number one, but there's 99 other people that are also witnesses. So we start to create this community, private community to that ticket that you could hold on to whenever you have that doubt. Hey, I saw something, these guys validated for it, they believe me, I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
Someone believes me.
It's a validation.
I completely forgot about those cards. I would have been reminded of it when I finished the report when I got there. Yeah. But yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up.
That was kind of cool. And I used it to get out of a ticket once.
Did you?
I didn't know how that worked. But now TESA is the Experiencer Support Association. Why did you start it?
Well, how long is this podcast?
No, just in a nutshell. Give my listener an idea, or my viewer an idea of how this worked out, or how it started.
There's many versions of the story, and the truthful story I'm not comfortable with yet. But yeah. You can read between the lines. But essentially, so for your listeners who don't know who I was, I'll just summarize real quick. I used to be the MUFON chief investigator for the country of Canada. So I was responsible for investigating every single case in Canada and managing all that through the other field investigators. I was also the director of training for MUFON National. So I was responsible for training every field investigator for the entire business. And through all that, I started to develop and learn all these, learn that the sightings were the only things that were important to them. There's various opinions on that, but the core model has always been sightings. But in dealing with so many people, I cleared over 1,000 cases. I've dealt with so many different walks of life, so many different things. I've realized that there's not any support for the people. So I didn't think just saying, hey, I don't know what it is, congratulations, blah, 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 you got a good one, was substantial enough for the witness or the experiencer. And a part of that too, as I was the trainer, it didn't really, Canada I had set, MUFON Canada, also moving forward, if I have anything negative to say, it's about MUFON Canada. They're different, but underneath the umbrella. So unfortunately, they get the slack that they're doing. But anyways, yeah. When I moved to MUFON USA digitally, not physically, I had realized the variance of different paths and different ideas and different ideologies, and the fact that none of them were willing to listen to me for change. So there was a whole bunch there's no structure. It was I'm part of MUFON, yes, but this is how I do it. There's no regard to the structure of the book. It was a complete chaos. So again, the focus was divided between the individual making the money, selling their own books, selling their own events, using the banner MUFON. Then there was the whole only caring about the witness reports, so it could be recycled and used to purchase books and do all this other things to make money for MUFON. So there was a whole bunch of things that I was hearing and tracking that made sense for a business that wants to make money, but it didn't make sense for the people who was giving them the information to do these things. Yeah. So the concept, the idea, the inception of the Experiencers Support Association was stemmed around doing the same thing that MUFON's doing, like as far as benefiting the world, but putting the witness and experiencer first and acknowledging them and giving them that bedside manner, giving them those perks like that card, making them feel valued so they can realize that me who's sitting here today talking to you is not because of the work that I did. It's because of the people that reported to me. The case that we're going to talk about today case is a good example of what led me to this today. And we need to always acknowledge that the bravery and the courage of the people who speak out and actually report something wouldn't allow us and other investigators to do what we're doing. And there's a lot of that, people that take advantage of that. And we acknowledge that. So TESA was created to protect the people because it's the Experiencers Support Association. Now, in doing that, that's the logical thought, the idea of the word and the term and the way the business has grown. That's something more divine. That is something more download-ish, we'll just say, on the record. And I'm still trying to work that out. But so far, every thought that's come in, whether that's from somewhere else or someone else or myself, if I execute the positive thought, there's been so much good that's come out after it. So there's too much of either I'm on a really good track or, I'm up in the polls for whatever God's intentions were, whatever the hell you want to look at it. But the idea of all this stuff is definitely coming from another thought, or perhaps deep down in my higher vibration, however,
it's a guidance. You're being guided. Yeah. I've always looked at the things in the paranormal, and I'll throw MUFON's challenges they're going through in that too, and how they've morphed. Is there are a lot of it, and I was on a paranormal team here in Vancouver. Similar thing. The experiencer and the witness were treated as a commodity. Mm-hmm. You came in, you did the investigation, you say, yeah, it's haunted, I'm out of here. And they're going, now what? Oh, no, we don't deal with that. You invited us in. In fact, it's so haunted, excuse me, it's so haunted, we're going to come back with a team of different people every week so they can experience what you're experiencing. It's like, really? How about no? Yeah. You don't want to. They're not a commodity. You're not paying them for it. You're invading their life. They've already got a challenge they're trying to deal with, and you're exploiting it for benefit of a small group. That's just the way I compare it. Is like taking someone who has a disability and making fun of them, or donating to a charity and posting about it. Just you got to deal with the event. You got to deal with the people. You got to work with the people. 110%. To me, that's like, that happens all over the place. That's the industry. So I'm well aware of the industry because we need to make money to cover our expenses. But where are you getting the money from? Yeah. Right. So if you're getting the money from that entertainment aspect, that you have to understand that the business owner sees the event as profitable for marketing to boost their sales. That's why they don't care about the experiencer or the witness, because they're thinking about the money. That's why MUFON doesn't care about the experiencers and the witnesses, because they're thinking about the money. 50 years ago when they started, that's not their thought. That's progressed. That's just now. So if money's not on the mission, then I think you're doing something too, or at least you've done this before in the past with your Patreon. When you collect the funds, you convert that into draws or sweepstakes in order to give them something. Is that correct? Or do you still do that? I do. It's just that I haven't. Patreon came out with a bit of a glitch a few months back where if I give somebody something, or if they win something, it's a taxable benefit.
Oh,
and the scary part of that was, and the reason I started a company that was actually a limited company was when I got, if I ever got up to like 2,200 Patreons at $3 a month, I would be drawing once a month for a trip for two to a paranormal conference, or going to Gettysburg to see, do a ghost tour, going to the Queen Mary, that kind of thing. Actually sending two people to these places along with me, because I want to go too, and we would film it.
Right.
And that was the idea. But imagine if, hey, Ryan, thanks for paying the $3 a month. Yeah. You and another person have been invited along to go to, we'll stick with Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'm going to put you in an Airbnb, and I'm going to set you up with 3 different ghost tours. Oh, great. Really appreciate it. Yep. Airfare and everything's covered. Mind you, you now have to pay tax on it. It's like, what the fuck? So now what we had to do is, like, every month I would give away a free psychic reading, past life regression, and astrological chart. It slowed right down because it was like, oh crap, if I gift this to you, or how am I going to do this? So we're still juggling with how am I going to do this? Oh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you along with me.
Yeah, there's definitely ways of doing it, and
so
I
it's a
understand
tax
those challenges.
Thing.
I understand that, but the point I was trying to make is it's a business. You're collecting money, but you're choosing to do something positive with it, but that's not only. Sorry, I dropped my pen. It's also who you're collecting the money from. So I don't want this to be like. So for an example. Our model is to create a membership for the community. If that's what people want to purchase, that's what they're purchasing. But everything else we do is free, is for the people, is for the public, because they need it. The people that we charge the big bucks to are the people that care about the money, care about the advertisement, care about the business, because they don't care about the people. That's fine. We don't need them to care about the people, but if they pay us for sponsorship, then we can take that money and give that back to the people, because that's what we care about, right? So we can go into all world problems of everything if that stems. Money is the root of all evil, all that other thing too. But when we understand it.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I know. I was a radical little Greenpeace raising money for wolves, kind of saving wolves. When I was 13 years old, my buddy and I realized the heads of Greenpeace here in Vancouver, who started it, all of a sudden realized how much money we were bringing in and decided they would actually start a business and take a wage out of all the donations. Yeah, so us little radical 13-year-olds burnt our membership cards in Kitsilano here. We wanted to be more of can't even remember the other group, the splinter group, that we were the more radical types, because we were raising money, and Sea Shepherd. We wanted more of the Sea Shepherd stuff. We wanted to raise the money and have it all go to prevent, like, stopping the wolf call or whatever, saving bugs or whatever we were doing that week, and we worked hard at raising money and getting people to donate money. And then all of a sudden the higher ups decided, oh, that's a lot of money coming in. I can do this for a living now. It's like, no.
And so that kind of comes back to the whole MUFON leaving and starting Tessa idea too, is because I was the provincial director. I raised a lot of money and a lot of awareness for that charity, for that organization. And to learn when I didn't learn any of this until I was national. So I signed a non-disclosure agreement, all this other stuff. It's almost up, I'm leaking a little bit stuff here too, but it's a business. So when I realized that the money wasn't being used as it's advertised, that's when I started to get these thoughts. And the take-home message is for anyone who pays for anything, please do yourself a favor and try to analyze what exactly it is you're paying for. If you're paying for entertainment, then accept that that's what it's entertainment. If you're disappointed, well, that's because you expected it to be real. If you're paying for information, that's a no-no, because especially in this, because my opinion shouldn't be paid for, because there's nothing to confirm that I'm right. It's just my experience and all this other stuff. So that's, you shouldn't have to pay for that. I know I might be a little touchy here, but like mediums and psychics that charge for answers and stuff like that, that's a gray area, because we can't confirm if they're accepting the money to tell you what you want to hear, manipulating the emotions, or if they're just genuinely telling you something that can be validated anywhere. Like there's, magicians are liars and all this other stuff, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So since we're talking about money, I just want to kind of wrap that up here.
Yeah. Okay.
Is you need to spend money. If you need to spend money, be certain of what exactly it is
where it's
that
going to. And I know
you're paying for.
And for us Canadians, putting money into MUFON, it went across the border and never came back. So.
Yeah, Canadian money. So we paid the exchange rate and all that other stuff. Anyways, bad business model. Tessa is Canadian, under a Canadian business model, but our business model is advertising and taking underdogs or up and coming people like I was and giving them the opportunity to be something. That's how we funnel our advertisement that way. And at the same time, we take care and we help the experiencers and the witnesses understand the phenomenon. And they don't charge for that. If they want to pay for something afterwards, it's because they liked what we did. We do it first. And that's the other thing too, is MUFON was like, pay us first, and then you can come to our meeting and we can tell you a whole bunch of things that we don't know. Everybody was disappointed. But if we do a presentation for free and at the end says, hey, if you liked it, you can donate. Like, like that's what church does.
That's what a couple of paranormal teams I was on after that crappy one. You don't. Well, a paranormal team should never, ever charge somebody to come in to see if there's a ghost in their house. That's just a scam. But they, as you leave, they say, "Oh, that was really cool. Is there anything we can do?" And said, "Yeah, if you got some extra batteries, because we just burnt all our
batteries are the currency of paranormal investigators. There's nothing more valuable than a battery."
It's amazing. Yeah. How many of those we go through. You've been an investigator for quite a while in your real life, and that is now morphed into Tessa. Like Tessa is now a part of part of your business.
My business.
Model.
And I had to do that. And it was really hard living the two lives, because I was getting all this attention here on the Tessa side, but I couldn't really talk about what I do on the private side, and it was hard to sell in the sense on the private side, because I walk into a room, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm a private investigator. Oh, that's nice. Well, hey, John, how you? It clears the room, right? So I was spending all this time having fun and being happy, curing the world, heating the world, taking care of all these people for free, and I wanted to do that, but I was taking away from the business that was paying the bills. So then I had to figure out a way to amalgamate. So I just recently did a post with my business clients that subtly explained that the business privately investigates UFOs and paranormal activity. And surprisingly, it was well received. But up until that point, I was really worried it would affect my credibility, because that's what my business is, what's paying for Tessa. So we're not receiving funds from Bigelow or CIA or anything like that. Like, I'm paying myself to do this for you. So
it would be nice to receive some funds from Bigelow.
But we'd have to do a public service announcement and make sure it's absolutely clear from day one what we're doing, instead of getting redacted documents from the CIA later and having speculation about conspiracies. But as long as it's clear from day one and we can come back to that video, then it's fine. But for now, the investigative method that I do for investigation, it was just, I was working too hard divided. So now that I'm working together, I was able to bring my staff that is working so good and so passionately and vigilantly as private investigators and security guards involved in the business side of things. And now they're excited. And it turned out to be this more like a benefit for working for a private investigating firm, a security company. Hey, we get to do this. We get to be involved with this. This is cool. So kind of help keep our employees happy. And then we just created this whole culture around, and I realized that the employees would much rather do stuff for free than to actually work and do a performance thing. So now we're having this juggle of like, okay, guys, like if you want to do UFOs, you still got to do the other job. So it was just one thing I was worried about for so long turned out to be the best thing that I ever could do, because now we can talk about it openly. And it's important to know that we are a private investigating firm that investigates infidelity, child custody, insurance fraud. We do all that, but the process that we do to prep it for court is the same thing we do with UFOs and paranormal activity, because we're taking care of the people. So go ahead.
Yeah. So your firm actually will do paranormal investigations.
Yeah.
So here's something that's interesting for anybody looking in your area. Was it Toronto area or you're outside?
Toronto's 2.5 hours away from me. I will travel wherever I'm needed. If expenses are covered, if they're not covered, we'll make a deal. So like, as long as you don't have to pay me for my time, just,
but you actually have the only paranormal team that I'm aware of that is insured and bonded.
That's correct. That we're insured and we're bonded. We have WSIB, all that other stuff. We're ready to go absolutely anything you want. Legal exchange. We're a business. We're not a non-for-profit. We're not a charity. We are a business. But the thing is what are you paying us for? So that is all debatable on those kind of things. And to get to the investigative part, that stuff's always done privately. So here's the thing. Is our work is never seen because we're a private investigator. You as a retired RCMP, how many of your cases have you worked on have seen the day of light? Seen daylight. Yeah, that's all behind the scenes, and then the paper gets it and twists it, and it's all, and then there you go. But there's so much hours that you put in, but deep down inside that you're doing the right thing. You've helped these people. And yep. You know the truth. And that's the same approach. So we investigate it privately. And we're starting to put the information out there to let you guys know that we have something, so that way you can turn to us and look and pay attention, put us on the radar. But we're not trying to get on TV, because that's fake. And we're not trying to get in mainstream media, because that gets twisted. So we are doing our rounds in the private sector or within the community. But just because we haven't shown you anything, I can tell you that on average, I'm receiving more reports than I ever have when I worked with MUFON. Yeah. And I'm busy. And these are things I've never seen before. We're actually working with people, and we're running and we're operating. And that's great, because we're working with the people, and the people don't want to be exposed. The people don't want to be, we get some people that will come forward and talk. And that's part of the support part. That's the other thing too, is MUFON. If MUFON ever hears this, I really love you guys. I really hope that you guys will evolve with us, because there's an opportunity for you if you guys are able to come to terms with that. But I have to compare you to how you are until you change. So, and because it's the reason why I've done what I've done, and I've tried to create a positive example of what I've been telling everybody all along. So once you see the success, then maybe at that point you'll be like, hey, maybe I should invest in that, because we're losing money. But they gotta see that until they change. So totally lost my train of thought there. I went derailed there. What was?
It's okay. Welcome to my life. Yeah, it's amazing when you are working for the public, mm-hmm. and you're getting the job done, and you go through your process, and I've been through the process. I did report, and then I got my friend who we'll talk about her report in a bit here. She's in El Paso, Texas. She's a UFO magnet. Literally, she gets a gut feeling about taking a picture of clouds. She in her head, she goes, I should take a picture of those clouds. And then she sends them to me, and I said, well, did you see these things in your pictures? Yeah. Oh, what are those? But those reports that people send in are private. Those are between you and them. Like police, like you said, in policing, well over 90% of calls to service and work we did, and I'm going back to uniform and even the parts of the policing spectrum I was involved in, nobody knows about it at all. Yeah. Like, you don't know, like I would walk downtown and someone would say, hey, let's go into this restaurant. And I'd say, nah, I'd rather not. Why? It's a really good restaurant. Yeah, I'd rather not go. No, because I know where they get their money from. Yeah. Or, hey, have you seen the guy with that fancy car at the end of the block? I go, yeah, I don't want to talk to him. Yeah. Why? I can't tell you. Hold on, you can't tell me, so I shouldn't talk to him either. I didn't say that, but I don't want to talk to him.
So would it come to no surprise to you that I have no friends in the ufology community? I have no support because they don't want to talk to me, because I've also advertised that I'm a private investigator, which also means I've done background checks on everybody, which means I know where everybody's is, and I understand how they got there.
Yeah.
But they're worried that I'm going to expose that and damage that. That's not the part. That's not the point. I'm setting the example to show you that you can still do it. You're you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong.
You have to be able to determine if the person is coming to you saying this is factual information, and you have to look at them and say, well, you're a chronic con person.
It doesn't matter. Okay, so let's compare that to the Mental Health Act, MHA. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I know people with mental health challenges.
I'm excited about this. I haven't been able to have like a professional police talk.
People with mental health challenges really do experience paranormal things. So you really have to just take that extra step to get over.
Even if it is mental health. Yeah. In the moment that you as a police officer, me as a private investigator, or me talking to a client privately to go and do snoopy things because they're not confident enough to do it themselves, it doesn't matter what they have. What matters in that moment is they are upset and they're distraught and they have anxiety, and it's our job to listen. It's our job to document. It's our job to provide them support. So all we really need to know is under MHAs, we don't have powers to arrest. So if we don't have powers to arrest, we don't need to arrest them. We have to console them and talk to them. It doesn't matter if we believe them, but we work with them to bring them to a professional who will be able to diagnose the issue and then give them help. So we still are transitional in that. So with Tessa, we have private referrals. Such pseudoscience is that we're also measuring regression hypnotherapy, float tanks, we have nutrition, we have Reiki, we have a whole bunch of private clients that we make referrals to after we've investigated and we have a better understanding of the type of trauma that's associated with the event. That doesn't matter what your event is. It doesn't matter if it's alien, ghosts, all that other stuff. It's the trauma is present. Then we do our investigation. We get our reports. We get all the evidence. We got the best possible evidence that we could get that's available. We do a little bit of research. We have a little stuff, and then we send them off to a referral. Then they go for the referral. We have conversations with the person that met with them to get a third party professional opinion on whether they think that it's mental health or genuine, or it's not mental health because of their professionalism. And these are also people that are private. Why? Because they can't come forward like I have and say, I do this stuff, because they might lose their licenses. So it's done privately. But then we have a secondary assessment. And then I re-interview the experiencer and compare what they have gone through a second time after the feelings have subsided. The fear's gone, the emotion's gone, the sadness is gone, the depression is gone, because everything that has happened in their life has carried them through this event, and this event is a traumatic index event. And how do you separate? So once it's been separated, then we have a better understanding of the individual and says, okay, yeah, your life sucked up until this point. This event happened, but this event has nothing to do with all that stuff. It has nothing to do with the medication that you're on. That's because of everything else. This event has happened, and we can verify it because of these things here. So mental health has nothing to do with it. And mental health is a very easy thing for the government and everybody else to say, to discredit people. Yeah, it's so easy, but that's why we don't talk about it, because it's private.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're working really hard and we're doing a whole bunch of things, but you can't see it. I'm asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to buy in and all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. But if you're an experiencer listening to this, and the best thing you could ever do is tell somebody else about us, and we'll take care of them when we cross paths. Like any other trauma, the best thing to do is to share it. Yeah. To talk about it. So we have what's called Experiencers Anonymous. We've started this. We had our first one January 8th, I think. Our next one is February 6th. We just got to get some details out before we make the event. It's free. Basically, you sign up, you get a ticket on Eventbrite, so that way we can keep track of who's coming, to make sure that the people who have the Zoom link are the people that show up. The moderator there, it's not run by me. I'm an investigator. I'm out of that, completely gone from the equation. But the idea is for people to come together like this and just have a conversation, and someone shares their story, almost like the AA model or the NA model, where you just talk and then you listen. And then everyone opens up, and then everyone shares their experience. And then at the end of it, we encourage you to make the report. That's it. We don't do the sales pitch at the beginning, because that's not why you're there. You're there to listen. And what we found with that, this first one was amazing. So what was communicated to me was the expectation was that everyone was going to be off camera, and everyone was going to just listen to us, to them talk for an hour. But it ended up turning out that as soon as one person started, the cameras were on and everything, and everyone, you started to see that people were getting comfortable. And the moderator had reported, because the moderator can see everybody, and the moderator had reported that they could see the emotions change to the people that were listening. And near the end, eventually, the people, like, you could actually see them opening up. And then at that point, they all talked. And then at the end of it, I have confirmed that 2 people from that EA were brave enough to follow up and do a report. So now I'm working with them. And what's good now is that we have the emotions are gone. If that vent is done, we have that thought process, sleeping on it, and then that documentation afterwards. So now we have a better report to look at from the get-go. And if that report turns out to be something unidentified, then that's stronger evidence to whatever. And if it's unidentified, here's the other thing too. If MUFON unidentifies something, it's because they don't know what it is. If the CIA unidentifies something, or the Navy's, and whatever that American branch is. NCA, yeah. So if they don't, that's because they don't know what it is, but somebody has to know what it is. So if I put something out there, for example, the case we're going to talk about, it's unidentified to me. So what I'm hoping is that somebody out there will see it and say, I know what that is. Okay, well, what is it? And then we learn. Yeah. We can't just accept, just because somebody said they don't know what it is, doesn't mean aliens. It just means the person that's the expert doesn't know what it is. Yeah. It's interesting, and I'll kind of want to jump into a little bit about your podcast that you've got going, and give you a heads up on a guest you should have on that's related to what you've just talked about. And that's why I was kind of not looking at you and moving my hands around here doing stuff. Her name is Nancy Tremaine. Nancy Tremaine?
Yeah. And what happened with Nancy back in the 60s is Nancy, and I interviewed her. Oh my God, I just bounced all over the place here. Hold on. I interviewed her a couple of months ago. I should have her back on, but she had a full contact UFO hovering over her driveway back in the 60s. And she and, I think her neighbor, the kid who crossed the street, saw it. She got brought up onto the ship. Her father was threatened by the government not to say anything about it, and she had hours of missing. And she, in her book, and I'm kind of babbling right now, trying to find which episode that was. It's called Preordained. Tremaine is Tremaine. And she came public with the story in 2011, but this happened in 1961. So 50 years later, and it was 50 years later, all of a sudden, all the memories poured back in. It was like she had a time capsule release in her head. Boom. And luckily at the time, the policeman who attended was still alive. And he started remembering everything too. It's an amazing book, but it talks about, and it's I think the book is called Preordained: The True Alien Abduction and What It Means for Mankind. What she talks about is, as a result of the trauma from that incident, both she and her friend were, I think they both, among them, they were probably married 10 times. Like, they have 5 relationships each. They couldn't hold a relationship down. Alcohol abuse to the point where her friend died just prior to the memories and everything coming out for Nancy. So these things, the experiencer needs to be believed, because she had this mixed up thing going on in her head. Did this really happen? And my dad doesn't want to talk about it, and I can't get any answers. And they spin for 50 years. She was like that. And then in 2011, boom, oh crap, it was real. And the policeman, she looked him up and he said, oh yeah, I remember now too. There was a great big silver disc and light, and you disappeared. And you got corroborating evidence too. Yeah. So that's good. So yeah, it's just an amazing interview. So you've got your podcast. Well, I just want to touch on the podcast too. Yeah. Okay. What were you going to say? Yeah, I didn't want to I was going to get you in the podcast. Yeah. Okay. So just to come back to that, and again, courageous and being able to share her story. And if she does see this podcast, if you share this with her, then I can explain this part too. I would recommend joining our private discussion group, because then you could speak freely about all that other stuff. We allow that in there, but we're also restricting information that comes in with validated, because we've talked about how we have to validate everybody. So our discussion group isn't designed to blow up and have the biggest numbers. It's not an advertising pool. It's meant to be a controlled, focused study. So she can go to that. She can speak however she wants, communicate and network with as many people as they need to. We only put Tessa events in there, Tessa stuff, blah, 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 podcast, our podcast. Now for the podcast, it's called Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. We're into our 3rd season. We are doing a bit of a shuffle, but now it's I guess this is pre-recorded, so we'll have that all sorted out, so we'll talk about it. You won't even know. But it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is a live cast on Facebook and YouTube. And what we do is we interact with the comments and stuff. So if you're part of the discussion group, then you can add comments and we can answer them live on the spot. But the format, our guests are very specific. So our rules is if you want to be on the show, you must report to us. So you have to be, so for Nancy, for her to be a guest, she would have to make a report. It would have to be investigated, and it would have to be considered unidentified, and then we would give her an invitation. So we only interview experiencers that we can verify through our own, and we talk about the event at the end. It's at the end of it. And that's used as a method to help them validate their own experience and leave and feel good about the event, because that's the send-off.
because
Right.
whatever happens after we're done, they'll go and tell that story however they need to tell it, and they'll get scooped up by the industry. Right.
Yeah.
So we use it that way. The other way you get onto the podcast is if you are an affiliate or a partner of us. So we want to make sure that we bring that content in because we're working together. Also, if you're on the podcast, we only interview people that are either the direct lead investigator or the direct witness of global events. So if you want to talk about if you want to talk about Shag Harbor, then you must be the lead investigator, leading acting investigator that's acknowledged globally, or you must be the key witness that everyone's been talking to. So that's how we get, or you put a report in and then we reinvestigate it and we go from there and blow apart everybody else's work that's been done for the last 50 years, which is in the process, by the way. I've gone back and reopened some old cases and I found some things these people have missed, which is why why people don't like me. But anyways, that's beside the point. The other way to get on the podcast is you, sir. You had invited me to your show. So anyone who invites me to talk and speak on their show automatically gets to come back to our show, and we talk about our show and everything else that's going on, and we pay it forward. So we're not actually seeking guests. We're inviting specific people based on the karma. So we can still help Nancy. Just I don't think the podcast is at the end because when we're talking about her event, it's very important that our listeners understood that she's gone through the process. She explains the process, how it helped her, so it encourages others to continue reporting because that's what we need. We need validation. And the best way to get that validated is by someone who's been through it. I could sell it to you all day long, but until you've been through it, other people won't hop on board.
Well, here's one that would really throw you off, though. A friend of mine in Sedona, Arizona, does UFO tours.
Mm-hmm.
So close to 1,200 tours right now, and I think only about 35 they didn't see UFOs on.
Okay.
So,
do they have any physical evidence that we could review? Right?
Videos, she takes people out to get night vision. Military night vision, and you've got 4 or 5 of these things coming from this direction. 2 of them stop, 1 goes over. When I was out there, they were traveling anywhere from 2 in groups of 2 to 4,
right, and
going to and from what is believed to be a portal. And the only reason she says that is that she had a group of couples there a few years back, or a year or so ago. 2 years, I guess. And one of the guys in the couple group said, "You notice how they disappear just over there?" Yeah. We notice they disappear there and some come from there? He goes, "Yeah, it's a portal." And she goes, "Well, how would you know that?" And the guy says, "Well, we're from NASA. We just brought our wives out here to see the UFOs." It's like,
what?
Really?
So that's the thing. Again, start with the report. If the report comes in and we come
the report actually, she's got about a couple of dozen the big V one?
See, that's the other thing too, is if you have, by us being picky is not because we don't care, is because we want to put our time on the reports that we can that matter.
Yeah. So
the other thing with MUFON brags about having 100,000 cases, but most of them are identified or bad data. So that standard we cannot hack, because by the time you go through the report, you might realize in putting a report in that this isn't all that, and then you've learned something. So we only get good ones because the people that make it to the end and decide to hit submit, then it's something to look at. So we don't want every report. So if they see 12,000 UFOs, that's great. I just want the best piece of evidence. Send me the best out of all of it. If we can analyze it and confirm that the event had happened, boom, on the podcast, let's talk about it. And then we talk about everything else.
It's kind of cool. She's a cool lady.
Yeah. You got to understand the filtration is based on the fact that the entire world is skewed, and it's very possible that everybody is lying and everybody is crazy, and also at the same time everybody's telling the truth, right? So don't be afraid to have your work analyzed. And that's the same thing for you investigators out there. If you got something good, we will validate your evidence too by being that second opinion, and we'll advertise you and say, hey, so and so from this place in Germany got this picture. Congratulations, great job, great work. Follow him. Thank you for your service. That's what we're trying to establish, to bring the investigators together too, instead of working on their stuff separately and trying to promote themselves. Like who cares? If you're doing something good, you're providing a service, you're volunteering your time, and if you don't know how to do it properly, then I'll teach you. That's the other thing too, is we're not going to shit on you. I need to know what you're doing wrong and give you some tips. I'm a private investigator. I've been doing this since 2009. I have my own training academy on investigations. I have my experience in how to do that. I've been I've cleared the most cases that MUFON has ever, any field investigator that MUFON has ever had, not just in Canada. I hold the highest rank, more than Jan Harzan himself, as the executive director for 7 years. And I was the national director for training, so I was teaching everybody. I have the skills available to teach anybody how to do this. So be humble and report and have us look at it. And don't worry, let us take care of you.
Do you utilize pure version statement analysis?
We could do that, yeah.
Okay. Just checking. Yeah, it's.
I don't see this other thing too. Privately funded, not funded by the government. So we have strategies and tactics that we use internally, but they're there have to be a degree of ingenuity, because we don't have access to.
We'll talk off air about statement analysis. It's actually it's literally something you do while you're reading.
Well, yeah. So I'm trying not to give out any trade secrets, but we basically,
it's actually kind of cool.
You pull the words out and you do all that other stuff.
The MITI and like main information, trivially.
Yeah, but we don't share that with the experiencer because we don't want them to feel judged. That's something we do.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's part of the investigation.
Pretend I didn't say that then. Yeah. But it's an investigative technique. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and along with all the other stuff that you do, just literally your gut feeling on stuff, mm-hmm. which kind of moves the course of the investigation, and you kind of, where are we going to go from here as a result of how I'm feeling talking to you right now?
Yeah, you follow the lead, and yeah.
So you're my buddy. Laura in El Paso. Okay. She is, always called the UFO magnet, because she gets these weird gut feelings that she should take a picture of a cloud formation. Mm-hmm. And she does. And then she'll send them to me and say, hey, can you see in this cloud? It looks like blah, 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 blah. And I'll say, no, it looks like this. And we joke about it. And then I'll say, what do you think that thing is floating around in the cloud there? And then we zoom in on it and we do all this stuff, and we found a good one, which then I talked her into getting a hold of you and sending it to her.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it is actually kind of interesting. I'm going to bring up, just for the viewer here, this is the actual photo, and I'm just going to change views of it if I can. Yeah, so this is the photo. And what we were concerned with is this little tiny black kind of dot there. Inside my Proud Boys thing. Anyway, this thing here is the little item that we were concerned with. And we'll zoom in on that later. But tell me, when she finally did the report and sent it to you, and she filled out everything that was online, and we're going to get to the website in a bit here, but she filled out that information, and she gives this to you. What do you do from there?
I'm just, I was trying to pull up the report in time, but okay, I found it. Okay, so once the experiencer goes through that part, it gets sent directly to my email. It doesn't get uploaded to a CMS. It doesn't get filtered out to anything else. It goes to me directly. That's how you get my email. And what I'll do is I'll forward it back so you have a copy of it. So she immediately got a copy of her own report for her own records based on her own thoughts. So, and there's questions in there that kind of ask things like, what do you want us to do with it? Or how would you like us to share this? So we kind of have a mixture of investigating / feedback of the expectations. So in this particular case, she wanted me to investigate it, and that's what we did. And we, did all those things there. So once that agreement is settled, she has a copy of what she wants done, and I have a copy of what they want done. It's very important that I do exactly it as she's indicated, because I need her to trust me afterwards and moving forward. So I then open up an investigative form, and then I start breaking it down. So I actually pulled that up. I'll do. I don't want to share it, but I will read from it.
Okay.
Once I find it here. So these forms are redacted and they're typed in such a way that if they need to be reproduced for whatever reason, for science comparison, sharing to other members of Tessa, it's done in such a way that no identifiers are there. It's a witness statement. It's generalized. So if you, this is what gets repopulated, but that initial report that has all the personals, that's between me and the experiencer. And if they decide to share that, that's up to them. So there's two different reports. So I take that information and I put it into my investigation report. So the first thing I put in is the witness statement as it was described. So she, as described by the witness, she said, I tried CE5 Skywatch after watching the new Close Encounters. Oh, that's the wrong report. Ha! What report? What was the case number?
4.
Oh, I went to 3.
From last year.
Good thing these have no identifiers because I was about to read the wrong report. Okay, number 4. Event as described by the witness. I really can't tell what it is. It was black with a white light, possibly. It had 5 or 6 sides with straight edges and points. So then I removed some fluff from some of the explanations, and I said additional information. The object was seen in the west. Witness has taken multiple photos. Witness saw a similar object on YouTube. Witness describes the shape as the object as a black hexagonal. Event was approximately 3 months ago, and the witness was referred by James Tyson. So what that tells me is we have direction, we have multiple photos, we have comparison, and in my opinion, a credible referral. You're welcome. So then I do a validation process. So what I try to do is try to validate that the event has happened. So I have to believe, assuming that it's true, try to find supporting evidence either from other cases I've investigated or some really credible sources that can confirm that the possibility of the event happening happens. In this particular case, I couldn't validate because I didn't have the evidence. And that's another thing too. MUFON wants you to upload their evidence and in advance with your report. You're already giving them everything they need to do what they do. It's what they're doing. You sign the waiver. It's just with us, I read the report, and if it's worth my time, or it's not worth my time, but if there's more we can do, then I will ask you for the evidence. So that's what I've done, is I've asked her to provide me with the evidence based on how she filled out the report. Because it's that's the exchange, right? She might have been encouraged enough to write the report, but then she's still unsure of whether that was the right thing to do. So then I reach out to her, she gets the report. Oh, we're communicating. Perfect. And then I ask for the evidence after I reviewed it. So we're building this relationship instead of you just dumping everything on me. Then I ask some questions. Then we'll skip past those. Yeah, so then I work with the witness. I don't want to share any of that stuff. That's between me and the witness. But then I get the answers back, I add it to the report, and then I do some analysis. So on this particular image, it was the best possible image that I could get in terms of direct evidence. So I pulled the metadata. I got the exact location, the make of the model of the phone, and all this other stuff, and all that stuff that I need to do a proper analysis on, so I can confirm that no matter what is going on, that this is the best evidence for me to be looking at. So from there, I'm just skipping through all my data stuff that validates what I'm about to say, and. So basically, I do a bunch of fact checking to pinpoint to put myself virtually in spot where you were at the moment that has happened. Also with this photo, this is also through the viewpoint of her taking the picture. I also need to understand what's happening outside of the picture. There's a lot of information that is in there. So once I have all that data, then I can try to figure out what it may or may not be. So instead of me trying to identify it, I try to look at parameters of other known things like airplanes, helicopters, drones, to see if those characteristics, which we can study and confirm, match to everything I'm observing, to everything that was said, to everything that's here. And then if I'm able to rule them out, then in my investigative report, I'll explain that I do not think that it's a drone, and this is my reason why. And then we kind of go through this whole thing. That video you're playing there is what happens at the end is I try to create this awareness program where we're hoping that other people see this and report to us afterwards. So that's at the very end, and that's something you get too as a witness, if we, as an experiencer. So you make a report. I do this investigation for you for free. I make this video for you for free if it's unidentified, and then you can take that and share it, and it's all validated. The exchange is you're advertising Tessa for us because we want more people to come in. So at the end, I do a conclusion and I do a disposition based on the Hynek classification scale, Hynek Valet. I've classified this as a CE2, close encounters of the second kind, because there's physical evidence and it's within a closer approach of 500. So this particular event, I was able to confirm that there is an object in the sky. It doesn't look like a bird based on what data is there, in my opinion. It does not look like a drone. I sent that off to our drone specialist. He doesn't think it was a drone. It does not look like an airplane. And the story behind getting it is the typical, I was taking photos and then I went back and I looked at them and I saw something. So that is an indicator there too. But the old thinking is, oh, well, it wasn't big enough for them to be paying attention, so therefore it doesn't exist. It could be a bird, it could be anything. That's the skeptic thinking. When I looked into it, as this picture that you're showing here right now, the image on the left is the recreation that the witness had was nice enough to do. And we're able to see a visual comparison that matches with my report. So the reason why the reports aren't out is because we're private. If the witness has it, if the witness was here, she could testify to it, but she's choosing not to be here because that's not.
She's shy.
She's shy, and that's okay. But I still, so when you listen to this, I want to thank you for allowing me to work on this case with you. There's another thing that I should note is that this particular witness was the ideal witness to work with, because she was able to get additional information for me. She was able to respond. She was able to do some field work for me. And that's another thing too, is with MUFON's model, sell the manual and get a whole bunch of people doing all these things their own way to make some money. As a field investigator for MUFON, I realized I was doing all the work anyways, but if it's not needed. If I use the witness and I teach the witness and involve them in the investigative process, I learn about their behavior. I learn about their excitement. I learn about how interested they really are in getting that answer. And all that weighs into my conclusion at the end. So I now have a feeling associated with the data, and then I can conclude on my opinion with my a cumulative experience, my MUFON experience, as well as my private investigator experience dealing with mental health and all that other stuff. So now I have a good rounded feeling before I say this is unidentified. But that's unidentified based on my experience and background and all that other stuff. And I'm sure somebody knows what that is, which is why we make this recreation video, hoping that everyone shares it as they normally do, get excited about it, and we get another report. So here's another thing too. What she's done is she's created an example that goes into our database. So when we get another event that looks like that, I can then do a compare and contrast. So the first reports we get, we have nothing to compare to. But when we get something, I can now write a secondary report and connect those two people together and have another interview. And then I have all these witnesses together on this particular event. We could bring everybody together and hold a conference and talk about UFOs. They're unidentified flying object. That does not mean aliens, right? Then we can do that secondary study and that more in-depth private study. And then we can come forward and be confident and say, this is how many people we talked to. These are how many people are telling the truth. And if they're in the audience, we might not even know that until they approach us later and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, here's my card, thank you so much. And then we'll have that moment of validation. And that's what we're working for. That's our confirmation at that point that we're on the right track, that we're doing the right thing. And that's because we're working with the people. Again, the experiencer support, and then the association part is what I'm trying to sell, is to encourage other people who are doing what I'm doing already and doing that better, or doing that with us. So that way we can do so we can work together to spread that idea and that philosophy everywhere. And Tessa is a business model, but it's a concept. It's an idea. Take care of the people first, listen to the witness, and do your analysis afterwards.
Perfect. And for those of you listening to this audio and not watching the video interview, we showed the video that was Ryan's got up on the YouTube channel, the Experiencer Support Association. So please subscribe to his YouTube, Experiencer Support. Please. What's it? Sorry.
Yeah, so it's youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Yeah. You'll also get our live podcast videos there, a bunch of other videos. I'm going to put some debunking videos out there, some tactics, some tricks for you investigators, and to learn how to get better data. We want better data. We don't want all the data. We want the best data. So in order to do that, we have to teach people how to do it. No one knows how. Yeah. And that's not your fault. So I don't want, like, other ufologists have been doing this for 50 years. You guys have figured it out, or you figured out how to make money off of it. You can put yourself in whatever category you feel comfortable. But there's a lot of people that are doing this that no one's ever heard of, and they're stonewalled because they don't feel like they have a purpose. And I want to encourage you guys to continue investigating. Just if you heard this, talk to me so I can teach you how to do better and make your service be known and meaningful. So a whole bunch of things are going to go on the YouTube channel. We would love to have a lot of people watching our videos because we want to try to get that super chat function out for our experiencers. We do have enough subscribers, but we need more watches. So if you do subscribe, watch everything on the channel. That's what we need right now. We need people watching this stuff, so we can get that super chat, and then that'll be grateful for our experiencers too, because then we can communicate that way, raise some funds for the organization too. And we also have Patreon. Patreon is also a members only extension. Okay, so there are 3 tiers in there right now, depending on what you want. If you want your message to be spread to our audience, then you could purchase the advertising tier. But just because you purchase it doesn't mean we're going to advertise you. It means we've exchanged, we received your money, we've initiated the verification process that your mission is in line with ours. We have no issue giving you that money back if you do not fit in line with our mission. But you can apply to that. That it starts the process of how serious you are before you submit the payment. Some people think they can pay and they get all these things. Some people think they've been doing it for 50 years and they're entitled to be a part of my association. I'll tell you what, that was the second I just Thanos'd you. You were just like, gone, off my radar, screw you, see you later. We won't talk about entitlement. Jesus, you've been doing it for 50 years. Wrong, for fuck's sakes. So, pardon me. So the middle tier, which is we call our Goldilocks tier, the $7 US. So I guess that's $10 Canadian. Sorry, blame the Canadian, blame America for the exchange rate. It started. But it's it is what it is. So for $7 US, that is the fun portal. So what I mean by that is it's not data oriented. It's not meant to be, that's the entertainment. So the one-on-one, get to know us personally, pick our brain, talk about the conspiracies, talk about movies, talk about whatever you want to get to know the people so people can feel comfortable. That's what you're paying for in that second tier. You're not paying for information. That's for free. That's for the public. Just take it and spread it and do whatever you got to do, because no one should ever have to pay for that. But what we do is we do an extension onto our podcast. So after our podcast is done, we continue the conversation into Patreon. So for $7 a month, you get to have additional content for our members. And as we start to do things, everything we do in the public, additional stuff goes into Patreon. So if you like what you're doing, you just get more of it. But the stuff that's out for free is the stuff that everybody needs to survive, if that makes sense. And then you'll never have to pay for something you need. The $2 tier or the $3 tier, Canadian or US, depending on where you are, is for our Experiencers Anonymous. So what that is a small number to pay to be part of a private community where you can be part of a private group of just the people that come to this Experiencers Anonymous. No posts come in, no material is shared. It's just a community so you can network with each other. And that's only $2 a month. But the thing is there two separate tiers. So if you pay for $7, you also have to pay for $2 if you want both. But the idea is you just get what you want that works for you. If you purchase the $7 tier, we won't know. Well, operationally, we will know who's there, but we won't identify. We'll keep it separately because the people in the $7 tier don't know that you're part of the Experiencer tier. Yeah. So we've created this police department for paranormal and UFO activity investigations. We also have a fraud reporting agency. So if anyone is doing something you don't like, you can report to us and I will sniff that out. And there's criminal charges. Like theft is against the law, no matter what you're doing. False pretense, like there's so many criminal charges that could be laid. Defamation of character. If another ufologist or paranormal researcher is insulting you online because they don't agree with your opinion, we can charge them. It's against the law. So we're also available to you as a resource to help filter that. You just have to, my rule with everything I'm doing, it has to land on my desk, which is why you need to go to the website. Everything that anybody ever needs is on the website. You just look at. When we go through it, I'll show you where to find everything. And unless you're in the inner circle where my previous colleagues on my up and coming to get me to this point, James is one of the guys who has helped me, and thank you so much for getting me to this point, as well as everybody else who's got me here and maybe listening. I'm tired of seeing the world bleed. And for me, this is a hobby. This is something I like. It's something I enjoy. But what people really don't realize is that how much everyone is suffering, either because they believe in something, because maybe they want to believe that there's aliens out there because it's better than living at home. I don't want to take that from them. But at the same time, what if they are being abducted? What if they are being molested? That's a crime. Right? So I want to know who's done it. So there's that disclosure aspect where we will be taking this data once we have enough surveys under our belt. A year from now, 2 years from now, I might be confident enough to start talking to Trudeau, if he's still in, and saying, it's time to talk, I'm a professional, you're a professional, this is what we got. This is what I can prove.
Yeah, that gets into the whole conspiracy thing, which I am one of those anti-conspiracy guys. To me, your conspiracy is like my policy. It's like, let's talk about how we can change the policy where when we get that file that comes in about somebody seeing a UFO landing in their backyard, taking it and putting it in file cabinet B, because it's always gone to file cabinet B because that's our policy, where a layperson would say, well, that's a conspiracy to keep it from us. Mm-hmm. Well, not really. It's just a policy. It always goes there. And there's, for some reason, the guy who wrote policy 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, it always went to B and it was non-disclosed.
Yeah, it's just a policy. Yeah.
It's policy. It's not like this from working with a bunch of people, trying to organize where to go for coffee with 4 people. Like, it's unless you put your foot down and tell them, we're all going to this place, it's like herding cats. Like, imagine having a conspiracy that included hundreds of thousands of people. Right. Someone's going to rat you out eventually. But in policy, if they think it's policy, that it's just, this is where it's supposed to go, until we get somebody coming in saying, this is, has anyone questioned why it goes in here yet? Well, no, it's always just been done that way.
Well, that's why I'm trying to be more vocal. And I do this thing on my Facebook page. So facebook.com/heed the world. So HEEDTHEWORLD, heed the world. It's Lunch with Ryan is basically what it's been figuring out.
Lunch with Ryan? Yeah.
I don't know. We might have to call it something. I've been doing it long enough that it works. So I pop on my live Facebook feed at lunch, and I answer questions that were asked to me the day before. And I do it live. I read them and I answer them. So I answer every single question that comes at me to try and encourage and explain to everybody that policy is important. Confidentiality is important, anonymity is important, money is important, but explaining on how it works in the whole scheme of the world. And once people understand that, when they get to the sale, and when, to me, a report is a sale because it's data, it's what gets us to do what we're doing. That is a selling point. It doesn't have to be money, but it's something that we can do work with and advertise and spread our word. They're well informed. So then if they are somebody that's looking, and the reason why I don't have any support in the community is because they are doing all these things that they shouldn't be doing. So they don't, and I'm not exposing you because you're not going to learn anything. When you learn is when you decide to make a report and say, hey, I want to help you. All that stuff, that's gone because you've worked through it and now we're here. So that policy still exists. I don't want to remove it. It's important. Just have to understand how it works. So that way no one's disappointed. You know what I mean? Like you ever get a gift and it looks like this vibrant green thing on the picture and then you order it and it's like a dull faded green, you're disappointed. It's not what you expected. Right? So as long as if you're well aware of what to expect and there's multiple things for, which we'll get to on the website, whatever you gravitate to, there's something for everybody. You're never going to be able to benefit from the whole thing, but we have something for marketers, for advertisers, for people that just want to get their name out and drop a couple bucks into Tesla because they want a tax write-off. That's okay. We'll take that money and we'll do this with it. But we have to understand that's a tax write-off. That's the point. You want to invest in something you believe in. This is where that's how these charities come into place. Yeah. As long as it's understood. But if you happen to you start as an experiencer. Here's the other thing too, as far as the business model. You start as an experiencer. You try the report. and then you feel validated and you like it, then you do it a couple times, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I am also a police officer that has not been able to come public, and because of that, I might be encouraged by his behavior that it's okay to come forward and be a professional and do this. That I just might. A police officer might be the bad idea to use because if you're still in service, there's rules around that. But anyways, the point is to encourage people that you can come forward. Then they might donate then because they're happy then. So we're not the money will come, but we're not looking for it. We're not waiting for it. We're working because this is needed now. And our sponsors that we have and things like that, you guys listening, you guys are all part of that. And I want to thank you, anybody who has helped us get to where we are. And this is a business engagement too. I'm on your podcast. You're advertising me. I will advertise it for you. All this stuff. This costs nothing. Kindness is nothing. So that's a message for the world. Keep doing what you're doing, but stop being dicks.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think Jesus said that.
Yeah, something like that. Along those lines.
Something like that. It is what it is, but stop being dicks.
Yeah.
Jesus of Nazareth. Okay, let's, before I kick you out of here, let's take a look at your website.
Yeah, okay. I'll bring that up. Share the screen. Oh, you've disabled it.
I have I?
You have.
I've disabled the screen sharing. Okay, there we go.
At what point in the conversation did you decide, I can no longer share my screen with him, I have to disable it?
I don't know what happened. Oh, now, there we go. We look like we're the Brady Bunch again.
Yeah, that's okay.
Look up at you.
Look around. Yeah. I can look at it. I'll do this. You got a piece of paper?
Kind of, sort of.
Okay, I'm gonna hand you one.
Hold on, you're on top of me.
All right.
Okay, go.
Look at that.
There we go.
Always wanted to do that. Okay, so this is the website. So I'll try to skim through real quick. Everything, all you really need to know is tessacan.org. TES.
Yeah, tessacan.org.
Yeah, and everything you need is here. I'm just going to kind of categorize people between investigators, experiencers, and other things. Just this is where you want to go. The ANU is the advisory navigational unit, which is the board. This gives all our professional background if you want to do a fact check of who we are. The evidence and review board, IRIDU. So there's the evidence review and intellectual development unit. This is my team that I currently have that weighs on the evidence. It's not just my opinion. I send it to a third party as well that we weigh in before we unidentify it, or before we classify it as unidentified. The reporting system. This is the first place that you go, because when you go here, you're asked to download the app, and then that goes right to your phone. And this is important for many reasons. As the experiencer, as it's happening, we want you to report instantly. We don't want you to sleep on it. We don't want you thinking about it. I want you to report it. Right now, it's available in Google Play. Apple is currently being difficult with us. But if you know how to manually install the Apple package, you can download the file from the website. We will make an announcement when Apple has... Apple won't release the app because it mentions Android. That's the silly thing. So I have to figure out a way. I got to make a new Apple app so Android's not mentioned. There's silly prejudices and business stuff. Can't get along. Anyways, it exists.
What's the app called?
It's called, if you search the Experiencer Support Association, it'll come up, but it's called the UFO and Paranormal Reporting is what it's called. The first question on the reporting system is, did you witness this event? This is also important. If you are not the experiencer, you can still report. We just need to know what reporting system you get. So if you say yes, you are the witness, then it opens up the portal to ask you questions. When you go through it, all the details, not about you, about the event. I need to have your email and phone number, contact information so I can talk to you, but I don't need to know that that's also where you live. That doesn't matter. Okay, so that's another thing with MUFON. They need to have all that information. That's because they, as we've recently learned, they've been giving it to CIA, but that's for another story.
Okay.
So that's news, by the way.
Really? MUFON's actually giving stuff to the CIA?
Well, they just released the CIA files, and someone has snuffed through it and found confirmation that the money has been exchanged for Bigelow. It's been confirmed now, not just theorized. So, anyways, it's still being investigated. So,
cool.
Got to look into that. So, anyways, the most important thing that I want to kind of acknowledge, there's a question about your blood type, because we're trying to associate what event is associated with the blood type, not because we are,
Yeah, that's a hard one for some people, because I remember on my RCMP ID, my police ID had my blood type, and I know it was O something. But I don't have the ID anymore because you retire and hand it back in, and I've never had my blood typed because I always carried it around with me.
It's okay. Most people don't know what I found in this survey is that the stereotypical O negative RH that everyone's been talking about on the internet is actually not associated with the reports we've been getting. A positive and I think it's the A blood type that we have the highest trend for, which is not interesting, right? And we have the data to prove it. So we also want to know negative, positive. But anyways, I just want to skip down to the evidence part. So if you have evidence, we will contact you to retrieve it. Oh yeah, right here. So what type of experience are you reporting? So at this point, all the stuff that you filled out is about the event. It has nothing to do with the type, because by then we haven't identified it yet. Yeah. So there's two classification. We have a two-step classification. The first one is the root. So was it a abduction, an aerial phenomenon, astral projection, apparition, crop formation, cryptid, entity, extrasensory perception, human-initiated contact, orbs, possession, unexplained livestock death, unusual paranormal activity, or extreme weather conditions. So these are the categories that no matter what opinion or researcher weighs in on it, these are categories we would have to agree upon based on the nature of your event. Then the data sets and reports. This is where we put the survey up. We do two surveys. This is my drone survey, which is basically cross-referencing what Transport Canada puts in as on their CADOR reports for civilian aviation daily occurrence reports. So what those are air traffic communications about delays or safety concerns in our airspace. But I have noticed that on a few occasions, the word drone doesn't match the description. But the drone is the word that's being used in these reports. Then I read the descriptions. I do an access to information request, and I get more information to kind of learn, to try to educate people on using that word wrong. But they also use UFO to describe fireworks and things like that. So this is you can read this in good depth. I break this apart here. Here's all the data to explain the plot analysis. Here's an example to show that like drones flying at 16,000 feet, that could be military drone, but that's not a conventional drone. Yeah, so there's a misinterpretation of the word. But then I actually, in this particular case, I have an unclassified document. No one's talking about it because I'm not friends with people, but I do get stuff. And this actually confirms an unidentified investigation that in January 2019 of an object in Manitoba that was observed oscillating vertically 90 feet above the aircraft, I believe. And according to this document, the investigator was the 21st Squadron Air Force, Royal Canadian Air Force. They don't know what it is, but they considered it to be no threat. That's something I kind of wanted to ponder here. Yeah, to know it's no threat, you would have to know what it is, correct?
Or do they determine it's no threat because nothing happened to the reportee?
Well, exactly. It's subjective, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because also in the report, it's unidentified. So we have different angles. We have the government saying they don't know what it is, but it's no threat. So it is what it is. So that's how they do their reporting. The secondary report.
Let me just take you back on that, just to clarify too.
Yeah.
That's the Royal Canadian Air Force. They're doing an investigation. They're doing a threat assessment on it.
Yes.
If they were to come up with a conclusion that it was a threat, then their investigation would go to the next level.
And I probably wouldn't get that
right
information, and I would get a no record found. Like there's no, like, we don't know that
so
part yet.
so the investigator writing no threat on it ends it there because they can't go any further because there's no photographs, there's no whatever. They've done everything they could at that point. Let's call it no threat and go for beer. But
it also shows that they're still investigating UFOs. They're just not talking about it.
They're only, and let me just, as somebody who worked for the federal government investigating for like 28 some years, but someone once said, well, what do you do? If someone phoned up and said, or came to the office saying that, hey, I just saw a UFO, what would I do as a contracted federal employee to a province or city as a policeman? Where do you send that report to? And I told him we would take the report under the heading Assist General Public. Okay. You'd write the report down only if they wanted you to, and it would go in the files and 7 years later be destroyed. Because there is no policy on where to send that an unidentified flying object report to.
Well,
but if that guy bypasses the police and goes straight to the Air Force, then they maybe do it. But I, as a first responder, we had no policy on UFO reports, unless, of course, the thing landed in your yard and blew a hole in your fence.
Right.
Then we're going to have to do property damage, assist general public.
So what I would also like to see in the future for Tessa with our credentials and the fact that we're a professional business is once we're on their radar, and if you're listening, to refer them to us, not to anybody else, because we're handling them on that professional level. So we don't want them to be destroyed. If they can't do it, then that's fine. Acknowledge that, but send it to somebody who cares about it. That's why they created the X-Files, right?
I think they created the X-Files because they had to put stuff in policy. We have to take it and put it in file cabinet C, and that'll be the X-Files.
And that's all. And that's what we're doing is we're opening up those files and look what we're finding. So somebody has to do it. It's not that they don't care. It's just there's no one available to do it.
But now, going back to the RCAF report, Royal Canadian Air Force report.
Yeah.
Is that, when you look at those documents, does that come under a specific file number, which is a sub-file of something else?
Well, let me go back to it.
Where you could actually say, hold on, this, we're looking at this report, but this comes from file cabinet B. Well, what else is in there? You do a Freedom of Information Act request or access to information request saying, could you give me all the reports in this file cabinet from this date to that date? Or do you have to, is it case specific?
So I'm not seeing anything off the surface. So this is on our website too. So I can send you a link and you could go through it. That's another example of a second opinion. If you're familiar with these documents, in my wheelhouse right now, I'm thinking, okay, RCMP experience needs to come onto the Tessa review board at some point. And be our professional expert to analyze RCMP documents. Is that something that might interest you?
Oh yeah, I can go through RCMP documents easily. AC and W Squadron that'd be of interest. Now that's in Manitoba, obviously Manitoba.
Yeah,
it happened in Manitoba, and this is a investigation by the RCAF in Manitoba from a Manitoba squadron.
Well,
it would be interesting if that was an Ottawa base.
Well, it says Cornell Heights, Ontario.
Okay, so good. That's a clue. So there is a depository where this information peaks.
Okay.
So that location would take all the national UFO reports.
Okay.
because it's not like the military is broken down where, there's each province has its own investigation.
So that's the funnel. Everything goes there.
And everything goes to them.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that would be an interesting, it's a place to start to find out literally how many of these types of reports they get a year, a month.
So I can do an A tip. You guys are getting pro tips right now. Yeah. But I'm going to follow this lead. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
And it's interesting too, because their motto is intruder beware.
Yeah.
Which is obviously it's a defense and dealing with stuff going on within the country.
Cool, man. Yeah. So like this was my first one. I just did an analyzation on how I interpret it. And that's the exact point is somebody like you would have come around and say, hey, I know what that is. We want more people to help us.
Oh, go back to the one that was right there at the bottom. Montreal Center called report pilot.
Pilot reported oscillating vertical red, green, and white lights.
He reported it to the Montreal
Center.
Okay. Could I want you to go up your document a couple more, and there's a weird, just keep going up, and I'll tell you when to stop. Right there, that strange box there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got says destination.
Yeah, there's a number there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That may be the file it's going to. No, hold on. Job number, mode, destination, page, result.
That could be a file number. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be the file number or the. That's a phone number.
No, too many numbers.
Oh, it's an ID number. That says telephone / ID number.
Okay.
Okay, so that is the location that report's going to.
Okay.
That's cool.
Cool. So we have that. See,
came by text. Okay.
Okay. See, that's the other thing too. I'm learning something too. Look at everything I just talked about as an example to other investigators. I'm still learning. And that's brilliant, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and if you go back up, I'll show you something else on there. Stop, and stop, and we'll keep going down. And then, of course, people listening to this on audio are going, what the heck are they doing? And go up just a little bit more. Okay, stop there. This document, Communication Instructions Reporting Vital Intel, MCC J08.
Yeah.
That's the Montreal Communication Center.
Okay.
As noted at the bottom. And I don't know if that could be even the date, January 8th, who knows, or January 08. But the JA08 also may be a reference.
So the date was January 08.
No, I don't know what the JA08 is. I would assume that, but you would have to go back to that box at the bottom where it says the Montreal Communication Center. And that it was January 17th, 2019.
There's also a number here.
That's the actual form number.
Okay.
And federal government forms all have a number on the bottom.
Up here, this is you have to read the document to understand the context, but
yeah.
This here, it's zoomed in. This is the occurrence report that I did the ATIP on. So the preliminary report from the pilot was a Vanguard Air Care Incorporated Beach 200 from South India Lake, Manitoba to Thompson, Manitoba, reported that an inexplicable bright light followed them from that airport to that airport in the same altitude and speed. No aircraft were reported in their vicinity. So that statement is the reason why I did a Freedom of Information request, and this is the result.
Did you happen to get a chance to talk to the pilot?
Well, that information's not there.
Okay.
And without giving more trade secrets than I already have been, they're very particular. Being a fellow soldier, I understand how to communicate with the Department of Defense, so I have to be very particular.
Oh, is this aircraft a military aircraft?
Well, we don't know.
Oh, because you could probably go to on this date at this time, who left from this airport going to this airport?
Mm-hmm. Well,
in that type of aircraft.
So the way I could follow the leads on all that other
pain in the butt,
which is a pain in the butt, but I have so many leads every single day. So the process, the hope is that someone could run with this and take a step further too. So if you give me any more advice and tips, I'm going to be offering you a job soon. So
the other thing is you always have to weigh what advantage I would have, or what more this person talking to this person would get me than reading this report. Like, what is the balance?
So for the purpose of this report and the why that it's included in this drone report, you'd have to read the entire 40-page document to understand why it's there.
Yeah, because they've interviewed them, and
so this document is to explain and validate my survey, which is this entire report. So the report itself is something separate. That's the investigative part, but that report is designed to explain the data behind the fact that people are calling UFOs, not things that aren't UFOs, and things that aren't drones. That was the emphasis of that report. And I was using that as an example to validate that someone is still looking into it. Because that was January 8th. The investigation was January 17th. So there is a process in which they took the same information and an investigation follow through is happening. So that report is to emphasize that they are doing something.
Yeah.
So, and then that's part of the disclosure and all that other crap. This secondary report is the report that we put out about our experiencers. So I do remember that you were number 8. So you as a witness experiencer, you can actually confirm that. I'll see if I can zoom in here for everybody's sake. Can I zoom in? Come on. There we go. That's what we'll do.
Now, again, we're with Ryan Stacy from TESA, and we're going over his website, tesacan.org. It's TESACAN.org. And we're just going through some of the reports and the reporting system and how to report and what is available to browse on his website. We're just showing you that right now, if you're watching the video of this.
Okay, thank you so much. So here you can just validate that there's no personal information here.
Okay.
I have your postal code, but that's just a region code to give me a.
Actually, that's not even my postal code. So
no, but that's the
location.
Correct.
That was at actually the Edmonton International Airport.
Right, and then so what I'm saying is that's how this is the public document, but that's just that we haven't released any information that could connect that file number to you.
Correct.
And that's the other part of protecting the experiencer. So we do come forward with information, but if they want to find you, they have to go through me.
Yeah.
So so that report skimmed through the same idea. It's the data set and an analysis on the data and my interpretation of what it means. Again, I would love anyone to challenge it or to weigh in on it and add their, as I do this, more people will contribute to this report. This report was done by myself. This year, this report will be done by myself and 3 new people. Next year, the report will be done by us and hopefully more people. So more people and more eyes are starting to look at the data, and we're going to all come to this. If we all come to the conclusion that it's unidentified, then that's better data for people. I've included the witness statements for reading, and then a couple images of stuff to show you guys that we had stuff. So this was the kind of the preliminary, hey, MUFON, we're coming for you. But now everything's public. So The other thing too is witness statements. If you guys are visual learners, that's another thing too, is we're trying to adapt that. That's for the data guys. Then for the visual guys,
that's me.
This is a tool for you, whereas you can just scan until you see something that looks like what you're looking for. That's it. Oh, that looks like something I've seen before. Let me click on this, and I get to read the witness statement. You get to read the witness statement because that's what happens, but you have to trust that we've done the investigation. Well, you want to know more about that? You do the access to information request, tell us who you are and why you're looking for it, and then all of a sudden we're connected and we're having a conversation. Because I need to know if you're just some guy trying to make some money off of it. If you're, I need to figure out who you are. So a government agency isn't going to ask us for that. If they do, then I would never know. So I would like to believe that this filtration means that the person who's asking is actually serious and actually understands what they're looking at, and they actually see how this business is running, because it's the RCMP model essentially the way that I have everything working. The Wanted by Tessa, this is essentially the cases that have horrific attachments to it. This particular ones, they were abducted, sexual assault. These are crimes. So we simply are creating a database to let people know that once we do figure out what's actually happening, that, and if disclosure is happening, like these are charges that need to be, laid if these citizens happen, or these beings happen to become private citizens one day. We'll go back. But this is to mimic another way of advertising the same stuff, as long as we get your attention, which draws you to reporting. That is the most important thing to do. This is what we do after you report. If you don't report, none of this stuff matters. Experiencers Anonymous, as I mentioned before, I have to switch that video apparently. You can register for our next EA. That's how you can talk about your experience privately with other members of TESSA, without being investigated, without being judged. We have methods in there to restrict other investigators and researchers from coming in. We have a three-strike rule. They come in, they identify themselves as a researcher. We inform them that this isn't the place for that publicly. And then if they want to stay, they can stay or go. We encourage them that they must be here for experiencers. So if they come back to the next one, the expectation is they are an experiencer and they'll be forced to share an experience then. But if they're not an experiencer, then we don't know. It's kind of different. Is if you're silly enough to identify yourself, then that's part of the process. Then we give you the second warning, and then after the third warning, you're out. You'll never come back to EA again. And the point of that is you're not there to market. You're not there to scoop people's stories up. You're not there to get research. And there are ways that I can figure that out before you get the link, because you have to register, private investigator, background checks, everything, just to make sure that you're not there to get information. If you are a researcher and you want to be a part of it, Project Babel, there's a way, like I said earlier, something for everyone. And this is understanding the social mix-up and problems. This is a solution. Well, what do you think, James? I've been talking a lot. Do you validate anything that I'm saying?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
As this being the next new age,
makes total sense. Now my listener's going to be, we're not showing you pictures of UFOs. Oh, we did, but we're basically the point of this interview is to introduce you to Ryan and what he's done, and show you the next level in reporting. We kind of beat the UFO thing over the head, but any type of what has been called paranormal experiences you may have. And this is the way of the future. This is how to actually report it properly and be assured that somebody who has the wherewithal, the experience, and the ability to research it from start to finish will happen. It is not, and these people aren't doing it to write a book. Like, good Lord.
I don't have time.
The paranormal investigator that I worked with, we would claim, you're just doing this to write a book. Oh, no, I don't have time. I would never write a book. I would never do this. He's writing a book now.
Yeah.
Well, because he couldn't get a paranormal TV show.
Well, you can write a book about me. If anybody wants to write a book, you can write it about me. And then,
you could color a book about me. That's about it. I know this to me, this makes a lot of sense. And I know we got a lot, we really kind of focus a lot of admin stuff, a lot of administrative stuff. And again, if you're going to have to wait for the video interview to actually come out on YouTube, which comes out a few weeks after it gets uploaded to Patreon, because my Patreon subscribers get everything first. And eventually it'll get onto YouTube, but the audio is out there for everyone to see. Well, if you're listening to the audio, go to the website, the TESAcan.org, literally TESA can.org, and and read up on what he's got and what he's done, and then go to the YouTube, the Experiencer Support Association on YouTube, and see some of those reports he hasn't got all the reports up in the cool little videos, but they're up there, and plus his podcast. So yeah, this is great. I think it really works out. Oh, look, you can link them right from your website. Oh, yeah. Again, I'm looking at his website.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So yeah, for your listeners, also on the website, again, everything is there. Like the social media, depends on what you're looking for. Yeah, the podcast network too, like Beyond the Tinfoil Hat is our leading podcast. We've changed the time to 8 p.m. It's every Thursday live. Our season 3 starts with a new host, but we have our old host passing the torch. So it's going to be a phenomenal episode, but I guess that's in the future. So you can go back and time and watch the episode on I don't know the date, the Thursday that falls after Friday, January 15th, because that's today. And that's when it'll be. But you can get past episodes on the website too. So everything's there. Now, another plug, which I haven't even mentioned, the big thing is we are planning an expo as well. We have this super event planned that is designed.
I think you forgot the word spreader.
Yeah,
super spreader event planned.
Once we're able to, but we're going to promote it. We're going to promote it until we're able to do it, because we're building something new. This is not only are we changing the ufology industry, we in reporting and bringing everybody together. We're weeding out all the bad, and we're giving opportunity to bring in a new generation of UFO, paranormal, and cryptid investigators. So I'm thinking of the millennials here, which is why this is all visual learning stuff, because they don't have time to look away from their phones. So
and most of the millennials, like QAnon, has actually been attracting the really older people. So hopefully the millennials will be out of that headspace.
Well, hopefully. So I'm thinking for the future. I'm not thinking of the end. After disclosure happens, you're going to need us, because there's no mental health support available currently that anyone could trust. So think that far ahead. If and we've thought of it all. So this is the next 50 years of research. So, and that comes from looking at the mistakes that the previous 50 years have done, and they can no longer maintain, and eventually that's going to fall out. And I'm concerned that it will not continue, and I do not want ufology and paranormal studies to die. So that is why, the main reason why it's important that we work together, so that we can continue doing this for the next 50 years, and not wait for disclosure to happen, because we're going to be disappointed, more than likely. So the expo is geared around, it's called Interconnected, a UFO and Paranormal Research Convention. This is also a game changer. This is going to be geared towards the experiencers coming to learn, to educate, to feel that community, that physical EA, that physical training academy, that physical interaction. And then we'll have a couple keynote speakers about what's going on, and we'll have that speaking engagement. But we're going to include a Skywatch. We're going to include, if we can, a live paranormal investigation. So there's different vendors, there's different people that could provide that service, but it's meant to be entertainment, but it's going to be designed as an educational part. We're also going to, because of COVID, we got kicked off of a list of priority because the events got turned down. But it's very possible that we might actually have an astronaut appear at this event. And what better person to interrogate than someone who's physically been into in space? So I'm currently working with the CSA on that. Apparently they're open for it. I mean, they know what to say. So, but it doesn't bother them to be involved in this type of event. I was concerned about it when asking them. That's the weird thing too. I just thought I'd have to be all professional and show the science and make sure I don't believe in all that stuff. And they're like, cool, we'll do it. That's the other thing with Canada. Canada's so open. They've been investigating UFOs forever. I'm off the rails again, but all I had to do was just say, hey, I'm doing this. Can you help me? Like, sure. What do you want to know? Oh, you're right. You're Canadian. We're Canadians. Duh.
Yeah, we're not. I'm not. Hey, it's going to be okay. Eh? It's we can always just say sorry after the. The big thing too is and this is learn in being in law enforcement. All they can say is no. Always ask.
Always ask.
Yeah, just ask. Don't be shy. Just say, hey, do you want to do this? Or did you do this? Did you kill your wife? Why would you ask me that?
Just be honest.
Just looking if I got a bunch of check marks on this report I got to fill out. So
we just got to get through this quick. Let me just start here. Did you do it? No.
Did you do it? No. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question.
Is it possible you might have done it?
Yes. Okay. Have you stopped beating your wife? Yes or no?
No.
Yes. No.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, just ask, and especially with what I'm finding with people in as long as their ego hasn't really pushed them around a bit, people who have a story and they want to tell you, then I'll talk to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be great. Get an astronaut on there, and then building.
With the exactly, and with the expo. Patreon members. I want to put this at the end. So patreon.com/Experiencer Support Association, the $7 tier and the $2 tier for EA, but again, it's tiered. So the more you pay, the more you get. But I just want to say this on this podcast because it hasn't been announced yet, but it will be announced by the time this comes out, that we will be offering VIP packages at this expo. So those are going to be expensive unless you're a Patreon member. So if you're paying $7 a month to be a Patreon member, this $200 VIP package could be yours if we can validate that you are a member as well as a ticket holder. So we are going to be offering VIP packages at these events, but if you're an experiencer, if you're a member and you're supporting us, you're going to get it for $7. So that's Patreon's where you want to go to help support us to continue doing what we're doing and reporting the system. Reporting system is what you want to help us have something to talk about.
Perfect.
To be honest, I could use a bit of a break, but report your serious stuff if you really need it. But it is what it is. So,
what else you got to do other than work? And
this is
home with the wife and with the dog and the cat and life. All this other stuff you can do in your sleep. If you talk to the right ET, they can probably help you with that.
That's true.
So we'll work on that. Well, Ryan, thanks very much for dropping by and appreciate it. And again, your website is tessacan.org. Just literally, if go to the GoogleNet people and look at the Experiencer Support. Hold on, what am I saying right? The Experiencer Support Association. Yeah. Just don't Google Tessa. It'll take you right off onto every company on the planet that has those 4 letters in its name. But yeah, the Experiencer Support Association, and just go to the website, tessa.can, and check out, go to the website, go to all the links on the website for all the social media like YouTube, the Experiencer Support Association on YouTube, subscribe, watch what he has on there, and check out the little vignettes on that he's put together in regards to some of the cases, like my buddies down in El Paso, and that we showed on the podcast here, and a lot of fun. And again, thanks very much for dropping by, Ray.
No worries. Thank you for having me, and it's been great. Now it's the weekend.
You too.
That's it. Let's roll. Hey.
Let's be careful out here.